Hello, I'm Rachel from Douentza Garden in Ireland, and today it is September, it is autumn, there's lots of stuff to be done, but today's job is to lift and divide a particularly vigorous Persicaria. Now this Persicaria is called Purple Fantasy, and it's a bit of a thug and it's a bit of a monster, but we're going to deal with it today. Let's see how I do it. If you're new to the channel, then you're very welcome to the video. Lots of gardening stuff going on here, including dealing with this Persicaria today. Now this Persicaria is beautiful with glorious geometric patterns on its leaves. Normally, we're into autumn now, so it's gone a bit brown, but the way really to deal with it is to grow it in a pot. And you're looking now at a clip of how they grow it in Ardon Garden in Dublin, in a big pot where it can't run and take over the world. However, that's not what I did here, and I planted this in the ground, but not exactly. I was aware that it was a bit of a thug, so what I did was plant it in a pot and sank the pot in the ground. However, if we look closely now, you can see that this plant has long overrun its pot. I did not use a pot this size when I originally planted it, and it's actually spread out and gone beyond the edges of its confines. So today what we're going to do is dig up this plant, take it out of the pot, divide it and replant it. Right, so the first thing to do is a bit of exploratory work here with my fork, just to see if I can find where the edge of the pot is. Now I fully expect the pot to be right in there because this plant has spread beyond the calls of duty. Oh look, we're getting a bit of leverage here. Still can't feel the pot yet though. And the trick with any job like this is to just take your time and don't be in a rush. Don't worry about the rain about to fall and wreck your camera. And I think so far all I'm doing is lifting up bits of the plant that have come out beyond the pot. I haven't yet found the pot. No sign of that pot yet. Okay, let's see if I can pull this without just pulling the stems away. Okay, something's happening, something's coming, and out we go. Now at this stage I'm beginning to wonder what's going on. Did I really plant it in a pot at all, or am I just hallucinating? Looking for the pot and finding no pot. And this is the point in time when you realize you've been lying on YouTube. I did not place this plant in a pot on the ground. There's no pot down there. I meant to, but I didn't. But I will plant it in a pot when I put it back in, because as you can see, this thing has gone far and wide. It has wide spreading running roots rather than deep roots. And do you know what else? It's also raining now. So we're going to take a pause at this and come back after the rain stops. Okay, so the rain has stopped now and I need to get on with the task, but I've just spent the last half hour inside just laughing over the lie I told on YouTube to you all about having planted this plant in a pot. And I've also gone away and checked my records, and there's no mention of a pot there. It was just something I remembered. Anyway, I've had to think about this, and this plant was put in the ground 5 years ago. And this is how much it has grown in 5 years. Okay, so that's some of it, it's not all of it. So it really spreads out, but if we look sideways at the plant, can you see how deep the roots go, or how shallow the roots go, let's just say. They're not going really deep at all. They're going wide. So it's a runner not a burrower. And this means that actually it's not going to be much good putting this plant in a pot, because the pot will only confine the roots deeper down. It won't confine the roots if they spread out over the top of the pot. Also, if this is what it did in 5 years, well, do you know what? It's not too bad. It's just good perennial spread. So I'm going to replant this, going to divide it and replant it, but I'm not putting it in a pot. Okay, now let me just remember that for the next 5 years when I go to dig it up again. So I guess the first place I'm going to cut is going to be across here. And there is no fine art to this. We're just going to slice the plant across like that. Not worrying too much about the roots and stems, because as we can see, this is a vigorous fellow and he's going to grow back. Now I'm going to slice this in two here. I suppose we might go across here. This central section here seems to be less full of stems than the rest, so I imagine we're going to discard that, but for the time being we'll go across like this. It's great when you have perennials, you don't need to fuss about too much and you don't need to worry about slicing and dicing them. And then finally just across here. Okay, so I'm going to start here with this one here and just cut off the top growth. So basically here we have a nice little clump that actually wants to divide into many, with perhaps a central part here that we can discard. That this bit here is quite congested and doesn't have many stems, so I'm just going to try and remove this piece here to discard. It's the old center of the perennial and I guess we don't need it. Okay, so this is the piece I'm going to discard in the trug here. We have a piece here. And we have lots of clumps here. Okay, so we have several clumps here. We have one, we have two small one, we have 3.5, we have 4 a big one, we have 5, we have 6, we have 7, we have 8, 9.5. Okay, let's replant some of them over there. And the next step is to excavate my hole just a little bit wider. And we don't need to go deep for this plant, as we've already established. Very, very dry soil this year. It's been a dry old summer. Now the hole I'm extending a bit further over here to the right rather than the left, because there is space on the right, whereas not so much on the left. And now I'm placing a couple of clumps back in the hole. There's a big one there, probably this one here. Leaving a bit of space in between, and for the third one we'll put it over here at the back. So I'm going to mix in with my ordinary soil. Now these plants should be buried to the same depth that they originally were, but a little bit deeper isn't going to make a whole lot of difference, but we just raise that one up a little bit so it's the right level, and surround them with a mix of own soil, which they need to get used to do well, and compost, which is just going to help them get a bit of a head start, especially since it's been so dry this year. And then the final step is to give the plants a good watering. Now, you saw it was raining here just a moment ago, but never let that fool you. Plants need to be well watered in to let their roots settle. So don't think, oh, I won't water because it's going to rain. You really do need to water. And I think there's a joke out there somewhere of the gardener watering in the rain, but it is something you need to do. Now I need to keep this moist if the rain won't do it going forward, and in spring this should get going and be absolutely magnificent. And I would hope that by next spring, next summer, you won't notice anything had been done to the Persicaria. It will be back to its normal big bouncy self. And as for the small bits that we divided from it, some of these will be planted elsewhere in the garden and some will be put into pots. And I guess I'll decide what to do with them then at a later stage, all of which will be well watered. And I think just in terms of Purple Fantasy, Persicaria Purple Fantasy, I would be less scared of it than previously, seeing what it's done and seeing that it really is quite manageable if you just have your wits about you. If you plant it in the ground and don't do anything with it for years and years, then I'm sure it will take over the world. But there's a lot of hype about plants taking over your garden, and I think this isn't one of them to do it, but don't hold me to that. Okay, thank you for watching and I'll see you on the next video. Bye!